Today we will start a new topic, that is limbic system. We have mentioned the term limbic system in previous two classes along with the discussion of hypothalamus, because hypothalamus is a very important component of limbic system. So the word limbic system, what does it mean? The word limbic means either it is denotes a border or it is a ring-like structure. So structurally, the ring formation by the cortical region, cortical structure around the basal portion of the cerebrum, those structures are included under limbic system. Or functionally, we can say we can include all those structures under the limbic system, which are included in the control of behavior, emotion and motivational drive. So all those structures which controls our behavior, our emotion and our motivation, they are included under the limbic system. So first we go through the structure, that is functional anatomy of limbic system. What are the structure which and here we can see that it is the ring structure formed by some cortical structure. This ring, it surrounds some subcortical structures. So first the subcortical structure, in the center of the subcortical structure there is hypothalamus, and other structure which are included, those are para-olfactory area, septum area, anterior nucleus of thalamus, some portion of basal ganglia, hippocampus and amygdala. These subcortical structures, they are surrounded by some limbic cortex, and those are orbitofrontal cortex, subcallosal gyri, cingulate gyrus, parahippocampal gyrus, and anteriorly there is uncus. So the main feature of this cortical structure, that is limbic cortex, is it is actually a paleocortex. Paleocortex means the cortex contains only 3 layers, but usually neocortex it contains 4 layers, and allocortex is neocortex is made up of 6 layers and allocortex is made up of 4 layers. So this is the limbic cortex. It is paleocortex which is made up of only 3 layers. So at the center there is hypothalamus, then other structure are para-olfactory area, septum, anterior nuclei of thalamus, portion of basal ganglia, hippocampus and amygdala. They are surrounded by a ring-like structure of paleocortex or limbic structure. Those areas are orbitofrontal cortex, subcallosal gyri, cingulate gyrus, parahippocampal gyrus and uncus. Now the connection of limbic system, actually limbic system, there are vast number of connections. These structures of the limbic system, they are interconnected. They are connected with the opposite side of limbic system. They are connected with higher centers. They are connected with brainstem. They are connected with spinal cord. So there are so many connections of limbic system are there. But the main connection we want to mention here are, first is fornix. We know about the fornix, discussed about the fornix in the class of hypothalamus. Then the next important connection is stria terminalis, ventral amygdalofugal fiber. Then fourth is medial forebrain bundle. One important circuit is Papez circuit, and there are many short pathways through the reticular formation. These short pathways through the reticular formation, they are ascending pathway as well as descending pathway. And as you know, the reticular formation is also responsible for the consciousness and arousal of the individual. So it keeps the person aroused and conscious, and it provides some other route to transmit sensory and motor informations. Now first is connection is fornix. The fornix, you know, it arises from the hippocampus. There is a special area on the hippocampus which is known as subiculum, and the fibers arises as fimbria. Then they form the crus, body. They pass backward, upward, forward, downward, and then again they pass backward. There are two components of fornix, that is pre-commissural fibers and post-commissural fibers. The pre-commissural fibers, they enter into the lateral portion of the hypothalamus, and post-commissural fibers, as you know, they enter into the mammillary body. So here you can say this is the hippocampus. In the blue color, the fibers of fornix arises. It passes backward, upward, forward, downward, and again backward to enter into the mammillary body. And this is a very important efferent pathway of limbic system. Now the second is stria terminalis, the two pathway which arises from the amygdala. That is afferent and efferent pathway. Afferent pathway, there are many connections from the cerebral cortex, olfactory system, thalamus, and brainstem reticular formation. They are usually unnamed pathway. And efferent pathway, that is again divided into mainly two types of efferent pathways are there. One is stria terminalis and another is ventral amygdalofugal fiber. Amygdala and fugal means those arising from amygdala and leaving the amygdala. Those are known as ventral amygdalofugal fiber. Actually, amygdala, it has a corticomedian nucleus and basolateral and central nucleus. So the fibers which arises from the corticomedian nucleus, those fibers, they form stria terminalis and they enter into the hypothalamus. And the fibers which arises from basolateral and central nuclei, they form ventral amygdalofugal fibers. Here you can see again the amygdala. It is the amygdala, corticonuclear, basolateral and central fibers. From corticonuclear fibers, corticonuclear area, stria terminalis is arising, which enters into the hypothalamus and the septal nuclei. And basolateral and central group of nuclei, the fibers arises from these nuclei. They together form ventral amygdalofugal fiber. And some fiber, they enter into the thalamic nucleus, some fiber enters into the hypothalamus, some fiber goes to the nuclei of autonomic nervous system, and some fibers, they enter into the nucleus accumbens. Now nucleus accumbens, it has a specific structure, it requires some specific mention which we will discuss along with reward and punishment center of limbic system. Now the next connection is medial forebrain bundle, and we have already discussed medial forebrain bundle. It arises from the septal area and orbitofrontal area. Then it crosses the entire length of lateral hypothalamic area, passes backward. It enters into the hippocampus. It enters, some fiber goes to the brainstem, to the nuclei of locus ceruleus, median raphe nuclei, etc. So it provides a huge and very important pathway from the limbic system. Now next one important circuit is here, which is known as Papez circuit, and its main importance is learning and memory. So we will discuss it in detail along with learning and memory. Here only we will describe what are the pathways which forms this Papez circuit, and it arises from the hippocampal formation. From hippocampus, fornix arises, it is fornix, and it enters into the mammillary body. Then fibers arises from the mammillary body and goes to the anterior nuclei of the thalamus, and I think you should know the name of these fibers. They are known as mammillothalamic tract. Then fibers from anterior nuclei of thalamus enters into the cingulate gyrus, and from cingulate gyrus, fibers again terminate into the hippocampus. So a circuit is formed which is a reverberating circuit, and it has an important role in the learning and memory. So first, the Papez circuit arises from the hippocampal formation or hippocampus. Which fibers arises from hippocampus? It is the fornix. The postcommissure fibers enter into the mammillary body. Then from mammillary body, mammillothalamic tract arises, which enters into the anterior nucleus of thalamus. From there, it goes to the cingulate gyrus and again into hippocampal formation. So these pathway constitute Papage circuit. So these are the connections, you can say main connections of limbic system. And other than these, I have already told that there are many short pathways which passes through the reticular formation. They are ascending pathway as well as they are descending pathway also. Now next come to the function of limbic system. In the definition, functional definition of limbic system, the structure who are responsible for behavior, emotion and motivational drive of a person, they are included under limbic system. So by definition, we can see that the function of limbic system is emotion, motivation and behavior. Now amygdala, it is an important part of the limbic system. And you know, majority of the fibers of olfactory system, they terminate in the amygdala. So amygdala is related to many behavioral aspect related with olfaction. And in a human being, this function is not very well developed. But in lower animals like in dogs, in ants, this olfactory function is very much important. Because you know, in dogs, their sense of smell is very much developed. In some lower animal like ants, everything depends on the sense of olfaction. Because what is, they choose their food, what to eat, what not to eat, where to go, where not to go, that all depends mainly on the olfaction. So this olfactory behavioral aspect is more developed in the lower animal, or you can say other than human being. Then you can see the hypothalamus is lying at the center of the limbic system. It is a central or very key structure of limbic system. So all the functions of hypothalamus, that is control of autonomic nervous system, it is one of the most important function of hypothalamus. So these also become the function of limbic system, function of hypothalamus. Then two more functions are there. One is learning and memory, another is reward and punishment center. The reward and punishment center of limbic system, these two centers are very important because almost all our emotion, motivation, behavior, our memory, our learning, even the control of autonomic nervous system, they are dependent on reward and punishment center. Now what are these reward center and punishment center? What is their importance? So reward centers are some specific area in the limbic system which when stimulated, which are concerned with affective nature of sensory stimulus. Reward and punishment function or centers, they are concerned with affective nature of sensory stimulus. What is the meaning of affective nature of sensory stimulus? That is any stimulus that is pleasant or unpleasant. We like it or dislike it. Any stimulus which is reward giving or punishment giving. Again, we like it or not like it. The stimulus that gives that gives satisfaction or that produces aversions. These are the functions of reward and punishment center. When we stimulate some specific areas of the limbic system, some area give extreme pleasure, pleasant feeling as if we are rewarded. So those areas are included under reward center. Just opposite, there are some area which when gets stimulated, it gives a feeling of unpleasantness. We don't like those feelings. We feel that as if we are punished and it produces aversions. So these likings and unlikings, that is the affective nature of sensory stimulus, are responsible for our emotion, motivation and behavior. For example, लाइक छोटे बच्चे को ऐसा कहा जाता है या हमें भी कहा जाता है कि आप नीट क्रैक कर लो तो आपको आईफोन मिलेगा. सो व्हाट इज दिस? दिस आईफोन का मिलना इट स्टिमुलेट्स आवर रिवॉर्ड सेंटर. वी लाइक दैट. तो हम क्या करते हैं? वी गेट मोटिवेटेड to crack the NEET or JEE or anything else other exam. So that stimulates our motivation. So what it cause, which type of changes occurs in behavior, our behavior, that we try harder and harder to achieve those things. So in that way, like someone likes, some student likes biology, so they are motivated to take bio in 11th and 12th. So that means biology stimulates their reward center. Some students, they may not like science at all. So that means the science subject, they stimulates their punishment center. So their behavioral aspect also change like that. Reward and punishment center also affects our learning and memory. That in detail we will learn in next class of the learning and memory. But something I want to mention here is that the reward and punishment center, they produces habituation and sensitization. That leads to learning and memory. What is habituation and what is sensitization? If there is any stimulus which is any sensory experience which is stimulating neither reward center nor punishment center, such sensations, such stimulus are usually they are not registered by the brain and they are rejected. That means the person become habituated to that stimuli. The stimuli, any sensation or any experience, if they stimulate either reward center or punishment center, then they get converted into the memory, and that phenomena is known as sensitization. Means if any circumstance is stimulating, when we are exposed to any new sensory stimulus, first time, there is a secretion of neurotransmitter from the brain. Many areas of brains are stimulated. But if this stimulus is neither stimulating reward center nor punishment center, then gradually these secretions or these responses decreases and lastly it ceases. So this type of things are known as habituation. But if they are stimulating reward and punishment centers, then gradually the response from the different areas of the brain increases and a newer connection is established. There is newer pathways established. Consolidation is there, which leads to long-term memory. About how these areas are, some areas are known as reward center or some areas are grouped under punishment center. This is an experimental setup. The scientists do an experiment that some monkeys, one monkey is caged and he is free to press a lever. Then a connection is made that an electrode is connected to its central nervous system. The first arrangement is done in such a way that if the monkey presses the bar, there is no stimulus is given to its brain. That means it neither is stimulating, it is stimulating neither the reward center nor the punishment center. So occasionally the monkey come and presses the lever. The lever pressing, the number of lever pressing is counted in 24 hours and that is known as random bar pressing. Then the lever is connected with some specific areas of the brain and the monkey is allowed to press the bar. Now the observation is that if suppose random bars pressing is 10 times, means when the electrode is stimulating neither the reward center nor the punishment center, in 24 hours the monkey is pressing the bar 10 times and now it is connected to some area of the brain and the number of bar pressing become 50. That means those areas of the brains are reward center. That gives good feeling to the monkey. So repeatedly he or she is stimulating the bar. But if the number of bar pressing decreases from 10 to 5, 1, 2, that means the stimulation of those areas are not very satisfactory, or it gives the feeling of punishment, so the number of bar pressing is decreased. So depending on that experiment, there are some centers which are included under the reward center and some centers are punishment center. There are some nuclei, especially the lateral hypothalamic nuclei, those when they are stimulated slightly, they produces the sense of satisfaction or they act as reward center. But heavy stimulus causes the production of aversion, or it starts acting as punishment center. So the reward centers are medial forebrain bundle, lateral hypothalamic nuclei, ventromedial nuclei, neocortex, nucleus accumbens, and some part of septum and amygdala. Now, 2 lines I want to discuss about the nucleus accumbens. That it is also known as center for addiction, because nucleus accumbens, it is stimulated by alcohol, caffeine, tobacco. So these things which are addictive in nature, they stimulate nucleus accumbens, and nucleus accumbens is a reward center. So it gives the feeling of satisfaction or pleasure, and people start using these alcohol, tobacco or caffeine again and again, and that produces addiction. Now the punishment centers are central gray area around aqueduct of Sylvius. It is periventricular zone of hypothalamus and thalamus, lateral hypothalamic area on heavy stimulus, and some area of amygdala and hippocampus. They are also included under the punishment center. Now, importance of reward and punishment center, I have already discussed that it is in habituation and reinforcement or sensitization, and again we will discuss it with learning and memory. The second importance is rage versus placidity. Now, what is rage and what is placidity? In simple word, जैसे हम किसी एनिमल को पालतू बनाते हैं, वो हमारे साथ रहता है, खेलता है, that is the placidity. और कभी कभी आपने देखा होगा कि कोई एनिमल बिल्कुल गुस्से में भौंकना शुरू करता है and he tries to attack someone. So that is the rage. So rage is strong stimulation. When we stimulate the punishment center strongly, then a peculiar posture or behavior of animal develops, which are like the animal develops a defense posture. It extends its claws, lifts its tail, it hiss, speech, growl, develop piloerection, eyes become wide open and pupil dilated. कभी कभी आपने देखा होगा कि दो एनिमल आपस में लड़ते हैं, तो उस समय भी ऐसा पोस्टर आपने देखा होगा. Okay, so these are the features of rage. Now, rage or savage behavior. Rage, when an animal develops rage. Now, in that situation, if we stimulate the punishment center even slightly, savage behavior develops. And what is that? It is the uncontrolled behavior, fierce, violent or uncontrolled behavior of the animal, that is known as savage behavior. And all these behavior are due to stimulation of punishment center of limbic system. But these behavior, they are kept in control or inhibited by signal from ventromedial nucleus, some portion of hippocampus, cingulate gyrus and subcallosal gyrus. The placidity is just opposite to this, and it develops due to stimulation of reward center. Now the next is about hippocampus and amygdala. They need some special mention. You know the position of the hippocampus. It is the elongated portion of cerebral cortex that folds inward to form ventral surface of the lateral ventricle. It is the position of hippocampus. And one property of hippocampus is that it is stimulated by almost all kind of sensory stimuli. So the importance is that it produces some another extra pathway, you can say, of the sensory stimulus. So some pathway, you know how the sensory stimuli, they enter into the central nervous system by ascending tract, and these are the extra pathways by which sensory stimulus are, sensation reaches to the central nervous system. Now the second point is that even the weak stimuli can produce focal epileptic seizure. Slightest stimulus of hippocampus can produce focal epileptic seizure, which due to that we can conclude that hippocampus produces prolonged output signal, and this prolonged output signal is important in case of learning and memory. The lesion of hippocampus is that after removal of the bilateral hippocampus, it is anterograde amnesia is seen. Anterograde amnesia means amnesia is of two types, retrograde amnesia and anterograde amnesia. Anterograde means after the lesion or after removal of hippocampus. And retrograde means before the lesion or before the removal of hippocampus. So after removal of hippocampus, there is anterograde amnesia occurs. That means the person cannot establish any new memories, although the past memories remains intact. So these things leads to the importance of hippocampus in learning as well as memory. Now amygdala, about the amygdala, you know it is known as window through which the limbic system sees the place of person in the world. All the sensory system, sensory signals, they pass through the amygdala, olfaction, visual, auditory, gustatory, they all passes through the amygdala, even the somatosensory stimulus. And we have already mentioned that it has a corticomedial nuclei and basolateral and central group of nuclei. Corticomedial nuclei, they are concerned mainly with the behavioral aspect related to olfaction, and basolateral nuclei is concerned with non-olfactory behavior. Effect of stimulating amygdala is same as effect of stimulating the hypothalamus, depending on which part of amygdala is being stimulated, because it is connected with hypothalamus, so the effect will be same. Now one important clinical aspect is the effect of bilateral ablation of amygdala. That means the anterior part of the both the temporal lobes are destroyed or removed. It leads to a peculiar situation or peculiar symptoms which is known as Kluver-Bucy syndrome. And the animal or the person, they develop some features, that is they are not afraid of anything. किसी भी चीज से डर नहीं लगता है. They are extreme curious. Extreme curiosity develops about everything. हर चीज क्या है जानने की इच्छा होती है. They forgets very rapidly, and there is tendency to place everything in mouth. हर चीज they want to taste, मुंह में रखना चाहते हैं. And then there is abnormal sexual behavior. Now this was all about the subcortical structure. The function of limbic cortex, that is not very well established, but experimentally some findings are there. That is ablation of anterior temporal lobe. Sorry, lobe is not there. Ablation of anterior temporal lobe, which mainly contains amygdala. So both the anterior temporal part is removed, then Kluver-Bucy syndrome develop. Ablation of posterior orbitofrontal cortex leads to insomnia and motor restlessness. Means patient सो नहीं पाएगा और continuous इधर से उधर घूमता ही रहेगा. Third one is ablation of anterior cingulate gyri and subcallosal gyri. Now the function of anterior cingulate gyri and subcallosal gyri are suppose that they connect the cortical structure to the subcortical limbic structure, and hypothalamus, septum, they send inhibitory center to the subcortical limbic structure through the cingulate gyri and subcallosal gyri. So if we destroy anterior cingulate gyri and subcallosal gyri, then these inhibitory signals from septum and hypothalamus will not reach to the inhibitory signals from prefrontal cortex will not reach to the hypothalamus and septal area, so there will be frequent fits of rage. Now the manic depressive psychosis and schizophrenia, these two are some clinical diseases which are associated with limbic system. The schizophrenia is considered to be due to imbalance of dopamine and decreased noradrenaline and serotonin. They are supposed to be responsible for manic depressive psychosis because the limbic system, it is connected to the locus coeruleus and the median raphe nucleus and many other nucleus, reticular nucleus in the brain stem. So if there is decrease in the secretion of noradrenaline and serotonin, these limbic system, their functions become depressed, and that leads to the manic depressive psychosis.